Yep. Yeah, about 5 minutes late. Had to get a quick nap before I had to get this live stream underway. Now, we're just waiting for a couple people. Anybody want, like I said, see if we can get people in there. Now, the topic for this live stream is called the Jones Plantation Syndrome. Now, if you don't know what the Jones Plantation is, it's a little story of a plantation where they were having trouble keeping their slaves in line. So they brought this gentleman who was very charismatic, who basically could literally talk the shoe, practically in my words, could talk the shoes off a horse. And he basically talked the slaves into thinking that they weren't slaves whatsoever, but shareholders. But there was this one slave that saw through it, and that's what brings us here today. Welcome to the diaspora. Now, I was hoping to bring a couple more people on there, someone from outside the United States, from a third world country, and someone who's raised inside the United States. But, you know how things work. Things happen. But, now the thing is, we are facing the same syndrome. We are facing the same Jones Plantation syndrome. Because in the end, they were all riled up to become hyper emotional as this one slave that saw through it is being beaten to death. And nobody batted an eye. It's pretty much the same thing today, just inverse, where they believe they still are slaves. Welfare, child support, EBT are all contributing factors toward the condition. Because when you kick the fathers out of the black home, you didn't allow a stable base. You didn't allow a stable base to be formed. So now you have these hyper emotions. So now you have 5 generations, 5 decades of hyper emotionalized black men and women, black males and females. And It's what it is. People raised by single mothers because the fathers were never taught the way to get custody of the children, or the mothers wanted to be a single parent and the father was killed in a drug shootout or this, that, and the other. Another thing we suffer within this diaspora is glorifying criminals. Is glorifying criminals. In other words, we are a very sick group of people. And we are not going to get better. Now, one of the things that are going to wipe is pretty much the diaspora. We're going to be wiped out within the coming years. Where there's only 12% of us. And an even fewer percentage of intellectuals. Now, what comes with the diaspora is we don't glorify education. We don't glorify education. In fact, we frown upon it. There are countless numbers of young black men and women who have been beaten up because they've gotten straight A's, who have been called an Oreo or other derogatory names because they speak proper English. So basically, the walking lost because they were ostracized within their community. This is pretty much an sysbm post. I'm just airing it out. Airing it out why we have BLM. I'm airing it out because nobody else is going to air it out. So I'm going to air it out. You might not like it. Welcome to the party. The party of dysfunction. We have people like hyper emotional people on YouTube. Angry. And it's only going to get worse. Each generation gets worse than the last. Now, on that note, this is another problem we have. With ostracizing the intellectuals, we allow other cultures to profit. We allow other cultures to profit. Japan has the best and the brightest of the black community. And with the influx of the best and the brightest, your electronic engineers, your mathematicians, your technological designers, they were able to advance their technology far beyond reaches that have ever been heard of. Now there are two types. Now, what I am a part of is the leftovers, the leftover of the black community. Now there are two types of leftovers. There's the hyper emotional, irrational thinkers that basically, in short, BLM. And then you have the ostracized you have the ostracized rational individuals whose grades weren't quite good enough to get that overseas scholarship. Basically, the intellectual lost, where we have no culture, where we are not smart enough to be adopted in most cultures, but not stupid enough or irrational enough to be accepted by the black community. What Lionel MGTOW said is correct. They are the same people. The BLM are the same people that ostracized us, that that beat the people up for being smart, and they're the same people. They've snitched on themselves. They exactly what it is. They've snitched on themselves. Now, the thing is, that with that being said, they're going to snitch. I mean, they've done it. They've proven that they are the same people that that bullied and beat up the intellectuals for getting straight A's. They have proven it. Oh yeah, I forgot I got a trailer test. They can't hide it. That's for sure. Now, by calling us, by calling the intellectual lost Oreos, they have pretty much cemented their fate. They have pretty much cemented their fate. Other cultures have physicians, physics majors, astrophysicists, astroscientists, scientists of all kinds. But those people will never claim the black community because the black community has thrown them out, has pretty much pushed them to other cultures. As I said, the Japanese have the best and the brightest. The Eastern and the Western Europeans have the best and the brightest of the black community. Other countries are beginning to pick up on this. Other countries are beginning to pick up. Countries like Bangladesh, India. Heck, the Latinos have the best and the brightest of the black community. In the fashion that each culture has the best and the brightest that benefits them, that benefits their culture. So a lot of these all these educated lames, as the BLM would call us, the Oreos as the BLM would call us, all we have to do is wait and watch and excel at our specialty is. excel at whatever our specialty is. That's all we have to do. Whether it's astrophysics, physics, rocket science, aviation, medical, or whatever field that we're in. All we have to do is wait. A culture will see it. That is basically pass to another culture. Me, I'm gonna get left behind. I'm the leftovers. I'm the one. I'm an intellectual leftover. I basically have no home to go to. I'm pretty much lost on this planet. Now, being raised Muslim, hold on. Being raised Muslim, being raised Muslim is basically an indignification of the human body. But in life, I faced indignities. In life, I faced indignities. So the way I see it, what's one more indignity? You know? Now, I have not quite been adopted. I haven't been adopted by a culture. That's one thing. I haven't been adopted by any cultures. I may right now, but for the most part, being adopted by a culture means to a intellectual leftover who's stuck floating and basically is going who knows what's going to happen if they try to go back and try to save the black community. They're going to continue to be faced with indignities, you know, because that's all the black community has to offer a leftover intellectual is indignities. So one of the reasons why I don't care because they glorify criminals. But when a person who's not a criminal faces harm or some sort of indignities, either brought on by the culture that they were exiled from or by by unforeseen tragedy, they wouldn't lift a finger, a single finger. Now, the reason I say is that I'm lost. I will probably be lost for a good long time. The majority of my life, I will remain lost. But it's what it is. Now, that being said, it's just a short little podcast. I didn't, well, kind of not surprised nobody came in, but yeah, it's what it is. This is McTown to Win. If you like this podcast, like, share, subscribe. If it hurts your feelings, I don't care. But take all this and let that swirl around your head and like a fine glass of wine. And if you're one of those people that are trying to get the intellectual lost, the rest of the leftovers, the intellectual leftovers, to bail you out, you might be barking up the wrong tree. Especially when you call us an Oreo. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm intellectual, but let's just say I like to think my IQ is at least at least a bit taller than a tire. This is McTown to Win.